Hello, hello. Welcome back to the weekly astrology podcast where we weave the transits of the week into the rhythm of the lunar cycle. I'm your host, Sarah Paasch, and I'm really excited for this week. We are in the first quarter lunar phase of the Cancer new moon cycle, and this is a week for Venus. If you were here last week, you know I kind of hinted at it, I teased you. I'm going to have a special guest with me today on today's episode, and I'm just so excited for all of you to join this conversation. We went in so many different directions, very Gemini of us. We had such an incredibly fun time exploring the transits of this week together, and it was something new for me in a very first quarter moon phase style. I did something new, I put intentions into action, and I had my first ever guest on this astrology podcast. Make sure to stay tuned until the end of the episode. We're going to share with you some special and exciting announcements for Whitney and some of the offerings she has coming up. And if you're interested in working with either Whitney or I, you can find everything linked below this episode. And please, if you like this episode, if you enjoy this happy hour with us, it means so much and supports the channel so much. If you could like this video, if you could subscribe to the channel and put those notifications on, that way we can hang out every single week when these episodes come out, and also comment below. This is a fun conversation, and we'd love for you to join us in the comments, share what's coming up for you, or maybe some ideas that it sparks, and maybe some outfits that you might be wearing. Here we go. I can't wait for you to meet her and to join our conversation on this first quarter lunar phase, a magical week, a fun week, and a week for Venus. Cheers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Whitney's here for our special happy hour episode because this is the week for Venus. Oh, this is going to be
Yay!
so fun. Whitney, I'm so excited for everybody to meet you. Whitney is an amazing astrologer. I just got the chance to meet her in real life in Seattle at Norwalk. We roomed together and we just had the most fun. Like it was just a natural friendship right away. And so I had the thought the other week, like, Whitney should do this episode with me. We should do this Venus episode together. So, Whitney, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience and let everyone know who you are.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I think it's perfect that we are here doing this Venus episode together because, like you said, when we met, I fell in friendship love. So there is it's just so perfect for this Venus week we have upon us. So a little cheers to our happy
Cheers.
hour.
Yeah.
Now, okay, who am I? I'm Whitney Kranz of Astro Arcana. And as an astrologer, the way I look at what I do is I translate the otherworldly wisdom of the cosmos into these down to earth insights that are really meant to help us connect with the astrology, right? And weave spiritual wisdom into daily life, because don't you agree, Sarah? It is so powerful when we're able to harness the energy around us to be able to integrate and
Mhm.
move through our experience in life.
I mean, yeah, I think that's another reason why I was excited to have you on the show because I think we have a very compatible lens of astrology and relationship to how we work with astrology. I totally agree that astrology at its best and most constructive is when we are participating with that intention of growth and that relationship and intimacy of like actually trying to understand what the planets are doing that are trying to help us, even if it's difficult, like how can I listen with that kind of participatory ear?
100%. I love that. And yes, there is something so deeply spiritual about astrology, and
Mhm.
that's a really important piece for me is like the spiritual aspect. I really strongly believe that this is a divinatory art rather than a science, even though we work with scientific things.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, there's room for fun too. There we come across so many very academic astrologers who are so well respected, and that's great. We have so much to learn, but like we can also make astrology fun, and I think that's part of what I'm here to do. Like I know one of the reasons that you were so excited to have me for Venus week is because One of the things that I've been trying to do with my practice very recently, after having this extremely inspiring experience at Norwalk with you, in front of you, Sarah, is weave fashion into astrology in a meaningful way. Because when we talk about integration, I mean, as a former stylist and a player in the fashion industry, I know I've seen the way that we dress not only impacts our mood and influences our life, but it's an important way of like how we interact with other people and the world around us. So we can use fashion combined with astrology to really amp up that reflection and integration that I know is so important for both of us in our points of views as astrologers.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was such a funny experience, and it was so astrology good. Honestly, when that happened at Norwalk, I spontaneously went to the Astro style lecture. It was the last lecture of the entire weekend, and I was just lit up. I was like, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And just the idea of using style as remediation as well for how to amp up certain planetary energies in our charts or work with transits, or maybe how to tone some things down, through style. I was like, "Ooh." And then when I was sharing it with Whitney, she didn't get to make the live lecture. I had no idea that you were from the fashion industry. I had no idea that that was your background. And so when you shared that, my Sag Moon probably overhyped, but I got so enthusiastic and stoked. I was like, Whitney, you need to do this. We need this in our astro world. And that was part of the reason why I, yes, wanted you to be on this show this week because we have so much Venus energy and transits going on. She's obviously the star of the show this week in the first quarter lunar phase. And also that new Uranus transit that's happening that we're going to dive into. And I feel like on a collective level, this is a fun, like, it's almost like we get to live through or interpret and talk through the entrance of Uranus into Gemini through the lens of Venus, because Venus is right there, literally holding hands with Uranus crossing this threshold. So I feel like style in that kind of form of expression, that Venusian expression, is going to be a fun way to feel through that transition for Uranus?
Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you, my Sag stellium is picking up that enthusiasm that your Sag moon is putting down. So there's all sorts of good synastry and synergy here. And I mean, this is a huge week. And I know we're gonna dig into all of it,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, Venus is absolutely blessing this entrance of Uranus into Gemini. It's so sweet and powerful. So I can't wait
Mm-hmm.
to get into it and
I
like
know.
actually live it.
Yeah, I know. And I'm glad we're here doing this together. It's like, it's so astrology good. With that, let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Let's start with Wednesday, July 2nd. We're going to have that first quarter moon with the moon in Libra. And what's really interesting is that the moon in Libra is actually going to be void of course all the way until Friday, when kind of the party starts, so to speak, of the pileup of transits that we're going to cover. And Whitney, I know you had some interesting takes on void of course moon. I spent some time talking about it in a recent episode, kind of sharing about how when the moon's void of course, it's kind of like we leave our cell phone on airplane mode and go into Joshua Tree and just disconnect so that we can kind of connect to something, beyond the everyday, the hustle, or to kind of just take that step back and do the behind the scenes stuff. But I want you to share with the audience your void of course take.
Oh, yeah, of course. I loved that episode, by the way. The imagery of walking Joshua Tree just like disconnected with no service. I was like, yes, bring me there. The rest of the week into the weekend, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we're kind of getting into party mode, right? That's what Venus and Uranus are calling us. So there's your permission. Another cheers. No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I know.
You said it was a happy hour
I
episode.
know. I'm just waiting to open my beverage until we get a
Yeah.
little bit more through to make sure
Well,
that I
and
stay
and
on track.
and we can be clear that I am practicing astrology responsibly. This is a mocktail, people,
Yeah.
but I had to make it cute because we're cute.
Yeah.
Um, okay, back to void of course. There are a couple different schools of thought when it comes to a void of course moon. There's a modern definition and there's a Hellenistic definition. And I'm a practitioner primarily of Hellenistic astrology. So, Hellenistic astrology is rooted in the ancient Greek practices. And the really unique thing about Hellenistic astrology is back in the day when the ancients were practicing astrology, they did not even have telescopes to see the heavens, right? And so they were looking at the sky with their naked eye. And so they were not able to see our what we call outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Mhm.
And so that is a big part of where the modern and the Hellenistic definitions of the void of course moon differ. In modern astrology, a void of course moon simply does not aspect any other planet or point until the moon leaves that sign. And in Hellenistic astrology, what's slightly different is that the moon doesn't aspect any of our traditional planets. So it takes those outer planets out, right?
Mhm.
And the definition states within the next 30 degrees rather than sign boundary. So
Right.
that's the major difference. The Hellenistic definition as what we call like a very malefic occurrence, right? There's a lot of negativity associated with a Hellenistically defined void of course moon, where this void of course moon offers us a little bit more of that productivity or a little bit more of that productive rest, right? And if anything, it just might be one of those days or two of those days where things just don't quite stick. You know, you try to work on things despite your better judgment because you're like, let's just get it done. And the Zoom recording doesn't save to your computer, or you
Right.
have to go back and re edit. You know, I
Yeah.
love the way you think of it as like a time to rest, you know? So, like, before you get your party outfit on later this week, this is where you get to wear your more simple, more comfortable, more practical, but still pretty because the moon is in Libra. You know,
Yeah.
we can still be pretty, but you know, we're going with our like sort of black and white
Yeah.
simple sweats or, you know, instead of like really getting into it.
Yeah, or maybe not being too fixed on any RSVPs because it's like there's going to be so many invitations potentially starting to come in, especially with the Gemini influence of the astrology we're talking about with Venus. Maybe it's just a moment to kind of like let those RSVP, those invitations all kind of sit on the counter and just kind of feel into which ones you want to say yes to, but don't make any hard confirmations, hard yeses, hard nos, because there might be something on Friday when we get into the energy that's like, oh, there was a party that I didn't know about until today. And now I wish I wouldn't have said yes to the other thing. I don't know. That's kind of what's coming to me with this
For
specific
sure.
void of course moon.
Yes, this is like a week where, I mean, if you've taken this off of work, amazing. This is
Yeah.
perfect, right? But like,
Yeah.
just pencil in your RSVPs, right? Don't write it in pen. We're
Yes.
not carving anything into stone this week. You're just penciling things in and, you know, letting your flexibility fly as we get into the weekend.
Yes, I love that. That's actually a perfect transition. We're going to go into Friday because this is where that kind of invitation to be spontaneous and flexible for the fun to really flow starts. So, on Friday, July 4th, Independence Day, of course, we've got the moon that's going to enter into Scorpio. And early that morning, Venus is going to conjunct Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus. So, the anaretic degree, this final degree, this threshold in Venus's sign, right? Venus is at home, and I really was thinking about this. The way I was thinking about it is like, first of all, it's definitely a party, right? Like, we're definitely feeling a party with Venus and Uranus. Venus and Uranus loves and needs that creative freedom, the like spontaneity to do something different, to try something different. And I was thinking, have you ever heard of ecstatic dance before, Whitney?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So they have these like monthly ecstatic dance group on the beach in California where everybody comes and it's a silent disco. So you put on your headphones, there's usually multiple DJs and you can kind of switch channels to which DJs you want to, listen to and dance to. And really the intention is to come sober. And so the invitation is to really be free in your body with expression and through dance and through movement and to feel into your authenticity and to feel comfortable and confident in this collective community to really just express yourself and to feel and dance through the music. And I felt like that was such a Taurus part because it wasn't so loud. It's more like it's silent, yet it's so expressive and it's so fun. And so I was feeling that idea of Venus Taurus conjunction is like there's definitely this rebranding or like there's this launch of something that's like I've been working on some renovations, babe, with Uranus and Taurus, and now I'm ready to like show the world, but I don't need to tell the world. The first thing I want to do is I just want to show them. I don't like in
Yes.
silence. Like let me just show you. Like she just walks out owning it.
Oh, I can see her strut. I love that. I'm still on the ecstatic dance portion because I think that is such a brilliant image of how this transit is manifesting. Like you said, we're still in Taurus. Yes, we're at the anaretic degree, but the movement of your body is what grounds you into
Mm,
sort of the wildness
yes.
that is so much a potential with the feeling this day for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it's kind of asking ourselves, in what way, and I want you to definitely speak on this with the style stuff, but what could I wear or how could I show and express, that Venus Uranus that actually embodies that feeling of liberation for myself, the liberation of self-expression and the freedom of feeling good, within my body, within whatever I'm expressing, and really tapping into the power of Venus as the great attractor, right? That the more we step into that, the more likely we can really magnetize the people towards us that are authentic compatibility to the change that maybe we're stepping into or we're ready to step into. It feels like this like invitation to really put ourselves out there in a fun, unique, liberating way, which it doesn't have to be huge, but I want to hear your style take on this.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. The power of dressing for this particular day, this transit is so important because yes, all of this is happening in Venus's sign Taurus, but the moon is also in Scorpio right now. So there is something extremely sensitive to a Scorpio moon, right? And sometimes a Scorpio moon would rather hide
Mm.
than show or display their feelings
The
and
mysterious quality,
emotions.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And so I think that we can use style to our advantage today to not only sort of, a moon in Scorpio is kind of like a warrior without their armor, it's like because it's a little more sensitive. So if we can think strategically about, and I know this was something that I put into practice when I was working as a stylist. Sometimes I would have more difficult clients and I would think, what am I going to wear today so that I feel most powerful? And it felt like a ritual of putting my armor on. I see putting my makeup on as the exact same way, right? But with that, because of what we've got going on in the sky, I think we have so much potential to really have fun with this. Like, absolutely fun. And you know what? With the moon in Scorpio, let's get dressed to kill. Like that is
Yes.
that is such a like that came into my mind and I was like, yes, we are going to. But that means something different for everyone, right?
Mm,
If you're feeling into the moon today, maybe it's kind of dark and stormy and a little more cleavage with a smoky eye or something. But
mm.
honestly, I would really dump into the Venus and Taurus aspect here. Obviously, they're with Uranus and go for like the bolder, the better. Let's put hot pink lipstick on. Let's get loud with our colors. Like, I want you to wear neon. In fact, Sarah, I painted my nails today for you, especially for this episode. I don't know
Oh
if
my
you're
God, we're
gonna see.
matching.
Yes, like this sort of like neon,
It's
but
summer,
like,
babe. We gotta go
yes,
bright. Yeah.
this like softer sort of take on neon. I think that's so fun. And like, you don't want to feel like you're wearing a costume, right?
Yeah.
So you
Or
just
maybe you
like
do.
or this is the time that you can like reach to that piece in your closet that sometimes you're just like a little too afraid to wear. Like maybe it's a
Yeah.
little over the top, or maybe it's attention grabbing. Like if you have that initial hesitation, like that's the
The
piece
piece.
for today. But like, okay, I'm thinking about the practicality of like our ecstatic beach dance. You
Hmm.
know what would be like the perfect accessory? Do you know the brand? And I might butcher the name, so please forgive me. Is it Cotopaxi?
I have
The
no idea. I
okay,
am not a fashionista, in case anybody was wondering.
okay, well, this is the point in the show where we're going to bring an example of this onto the screen in a graphic. It is not a high fashion brand at all. It's more of an activewear brand.
Mm.
And this brand, Cotopaxi, they make your belt bags and your backpacks and whatnot out of completely recycled material, but because it's all recycled and it's super bright and it's just like random color blocking, super colorful
Ooh.
and fun. And I feel like that's what you're just gonna like sling your super colorful recycled belt bag on over your outfit so you can like dance all night hands free, and there you go.
I
But we
love the earth practicality, like the functionality of something, and the recycled is beautiful for that Taurus energy too. And I was thinking too when you were talking about all of this, like, going into the closet and finding that piece. I think one thing I remember from that Norwalk lecture that really stuck out to me was this question that she posed, which was, who are you thinking about when you're getting dressed? And like we all do this, like because we're going to a specific place or we're meeting up with a certain person, maybe it's a date, maybe it's an interview, but there's usually like somebody imaginary in our head that we think of, and we're like getting dressed for them oftentimes. And we don't realize we're doing that, but we all kind of do that. You can think about it,
Mhm.
And I feel like part of what this transit is asking, and on top of everything you're saying, is like, what would you pick if you were dressing for yourself? To feel good for yourself. Like if you're attracting almost to yourself, it's like kind of that Uranus element. And then
Yeah.
could it work also for that Scorpio moon that maybe you wear these like bright, fun, different pieces, and then you have like a really mysterious, dark shade of sunglasses?
Yes. Or
Like the
like
mystery behind who is this person wearing this
y-
outfit.
yes, or is it like black lacy underwear
Right,
under
like
your
something
outfit,
underneath.
something
Yeah,
secret
like hidden, something
hidden.
like nobody knows unless they get
Yes.
in.
Just like waiting to come
Waiting to be
out.
revealed.
Yes. Well,
Oh, I
and
love
I
that.
know we're going to talk about how, like, immediately after, not immediately, but like
Within
4 hours,
hours. Yeah.
yes, after this conjunction happens in Taurus, Venus moves right on into Gemini, where Taurus will join in a couple days. But also that day, Neptune is stationing retrograde. And the only reason I'm talking about this right now in our style conversation, I don't mean to be pushing us too far
No, we
ahead,
should keep going. It's good.
but
Yeah.
there's something about Neptune stationing retrograde. It's like there's a way I've been thinking about Neptune in Aries as this sort of guardian energy or guardian archetype, because there is this sort of like enhanced spirituality to Neptune, but also the fact that it's coming together with Saturn and it's in Aries, the sign of the warrior, right? There's something that feels like either guarded or guardian-esque to me about Neptune here. And I am only talking about that because when I was thinking about style to enhance this particular like Neptune stationing retrograde, have you seen lately they're like body chains that like it'll be like a necklace and and it'll go around your like
Oh,
belly,
like a
but it's
body
all
chain.
a
Yeah.
body chain. Yeah, I was like, oh, a body chain could be like a really good
Ooh.
accessory for this. Or even I know we're seeing in some like much trendier fashion circles like legit harnesses like as accessories, and I feel like
Yeah.
that like there's something here
That's very
with that.
Saturn and Aries, I feel like too. Like that Saturn
Yeah.
harness, like the container, the boundary between what is mine and what is yours in this body. I think this is a perfect segue into later on Friday. Venus is going to enter into Gemini. And just so we know, Venus is in Gemini from July 4th through July 30th. So we've got this energy all of July to play around with, to dress on, right? Or try on.
Hmm.
And I think let's just talk a little bit about kind of the feeling vibe of Venus, how Venus is going to express herself when she's traveling through Gemini, and maybe on a style, like platform, but also just in general, how people can kind of work with Venus and Gemini, tap into this energy. And I do want to just say, like Venus and Gemini kicks off like with a party, because the weekend, and we're gonna go through each transit ahead. She makes these really supportive aspects to all of these outer planets that are ingressing into these new signs. So there's a big party, and she gets this kickstart, this jumpstart that just feels really fun to like lead her in.
And you know what? She like Venus in Gemini, she's a chatty Cathy. Like what I see happening here, because Venus is, as she moves into Gemini, sextile to both Saturn and Neptune, right? And also trining Pluto. I know we're going to talk about the Pluto trine as well. But she is like here kind of wooing with her words. I feel like
Mm,
she is helping to bring about the change that these major outer planetary transits and ingresses are doing, right? And helping to sort of like weave that together productively and like using her words and her intellect to do it. And I think that that's such a beautiful manifestation of Venus as well. And let's not forget, this is a Friday. It's
yeah.
Venus's day.
Yes,
Like,
thank you for noting that. That's important. Love that. Yes, that is the day to play and celebrate with Venus. Yeah.
so like one of the things that I'm thinking of too, because yeah, there's a lot of fun and party energy here in this day. But as planets change signs, we get to feel the difference in the energy they bring. It's going to be even more major with Uranus because we haven't felt Uranus in any other sign but Taurus in the last, what, 7 years? And so
Mhm.
I feel like amid all this sort of fun and party vibes that we're having, this is a really great time to think about like, what have we learned over the last 7 years? Uranus is a loud planet, right? And Venus is here, like, sort of softening and
Mm,
guiding that transition. And so, if Venus is there, she's like testing how we've integrated and what we've integrated, and are we able to bring that forward. And I
mm,
think that there's so much magic then in these supportive aspects, right? The sextiles and the trines that we're seeing
mhm.
because it's working on that integration.
Yeah, I think I love how you talked about how Venus is kind of softening and like harmonizing with these outer
Yes.
planets and these sign changes. And I did feel that when I was thinking about Venus entering Gemini before Uranus, it felt like a really sweet rapport being established, like a really genuine rapport, a kind of harmonic introduction, Because I'm really thinking about Venus and Gemini too. I mean, she is a social butterfly. Venus and Gemini means variety and this social, intellectual, like you were talking about, stimulation between people. Circling back to the first thing you said in this episode of like, I fell in friendship love when we met. I was like, that is Venus in Gemini. People born with Venus in Gemini fall in friendship love. That is the love language, is like a best friend.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And I think too, something I'm thinking about Venus entering into Gemini is remembering that Venus last aspected these outer planets when she was in that extended retrograde and cycle through Aries and
Hmm.
Pisces. And so she was making sextiles to Pluto and Uranus. Those were the sextiles at that time, and conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune. And now she's moved forward. When she gets to Gemini, she comes into the place where now she's aspecting them again, but she's out of her retrograde. She's in a new place. And so she's almost like continuing a conversation that started back in all the changes during that retrograde that were initiated, or the kind of like threshold that Venus was crossing. And now it feels like Venus really gets to expand her network and community. Like I'm really seeing Venus and Gemini aspecting these outer planets as like people finding each other that haven't met before. There's like this new collaboration opportunity. And in that kind of localized Gemini way, where the more we can put ourselves out there and engage in conversations with a variety of people, that are new, I feel like the more we can leverage what these transits can bring us.
Yes, and like act with curiosity and introduce yourself to new people. I love that you brought that in, and that really resonates for me. I mean, simply as a Leo rising, I have Gemini in my 11th house. So I know that this is part of what this transit, Venus into Gemini, has in store for me is like meeting new people and getting to know and falling back in love with all of the people around us. I think that's so beautiful. You know, it came to my mind as you brought back the falling in friendship love thing, and Venus in Gemini. It's like the widely used emoji of like the little female twins who are like
Yes.
dancing, and this is just such a a
Yes.
perfect visual for this day and for this ingress. And yeah.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, the twins emoji, because that's also what I was thinking about too, is like things that might feel scary as we enter into like these new territories, or we're putting ourselves out there in new ways. We're kind of like launching that rebrand or whatever, however you want to say it, is like partnering up with somebody who helps you
Hmm.
be like that buddy that you're like, okay, we're doing this together, and maybe we like wear something similar, or we're like, just kind of
Oh my God,
showing up
friendship
together.
bracelets.
Yes. Oh my God, friendship
Sorry, I
bracelet.
interrupted you, but I
No.
couldn't.
Can we
Or
make
like,
some? That's a great
yes,
idea.
or like a little locket, right? That has
Like the
like
half heart, like best and friends. Remember those? Oh my God.
yes.
Yes.
Or it just or like or yeah, it's a locket that has like the picture of somebody you love in it. I think that's so sweet. But like
Yeah.
also if we're talking about accessories and style with this, like this is such a fun month with Venus in Gemini to just like say it with your outfit, like what you're feeling on the inside, like say it on the outside with your outfit. And is that like not the perfect time to like pull your graphic tees or your band tees out of the closet, right?
Yeah.
Like those fun prints and like layer it up. I know I've got like a fun, you probably can't see it, but I've got a fun graphic tee
Ooh,
on
yeah.
today.
The
It's
words
a
are so mercurial in Gemini with the graphic tee. I love that. That's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So like use, I don't know, or this is just like here's your excuse to go buy a fun new cute t-shirt because
Yeah.
like I don't know, maybe you need an upgrade.
I think too, with the graphic tee in that mercurial Gemini way, it also stimulates curiosity for the people who see you wearing that, right? It's
Yes.
like they're like, what, where is that from? Or, they have to read something. So they're like coming into that curiosity just in their exchange with you. Maybe it's passing on the street or a new introduction, a new friend. It's like a conversation starter. Oh, that's what it could be, like conversation starter pieces.
Yes, exactly. And like how many times in your life, I know it's happened to me several times, where you've complimented somebody on their outfit or and maybe you were like, oh, I don't, like maybe they're not interested in talking to strangers, or maybe but all of a
Yeah.
sudden you like get into this beautiful conversation in public in the most random of places because you're like, I love your t-shirt. Where did you get
Yeah.
that? Like, and that's, yes, the conversation starting outerwear fashion is so cool because isn't that just a way that we can sort of amplify connecting with other people? Like it's so
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah, we can express ourselves and also our interests. You were in a graphic tee from a certain band, and it's like, oh, we have this music interest in common. And so I love that. We could talk about Venus and Gemini, I think, for the entire episode plus
Yeah, for
plus.
like
So
12 more hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
but let's keep going. Let's move into, so that takes Friday's obviously really fun. We love that. And then we're gonna go actually into Sunday. So on Sunday, July 6th, that day is when Venus and Gemini makes that sextile to both Saturn in Aries and now Neptune retrograde in Aries. And to me, again, I was thinking about Venus retrograde and how, like, what themes are coming back now, or maybe like returning, but on a new level. It could also be like maybe you made a lot of changes when it came to your relationship, and that Venus retrograde, you maybe let some things go or some relationships go where there were seeds that were planted for new beginnings. And this transit feels like we're starting to find some synergy and collaboration that leads to a little bit of momentum potentially with that
Hmm.
sextile and moving and progressing that Aries, Saturn, Neptune dreams that we're building forward. Specifically, I was getting this idea of like coming into contact with people who would become like your study group or like masterminds, like these like smaller cohorts of people who, like I have a little mini mastermind created. I wasn't planning on talking this, but this is actually perfect. I met a group of women we had never met before. We were all at this retreat, and we all met and realized we were all single at the time. And we decided to do like a study group, like a mastermind, and meet every week and go through. Have you ever heard of the book Calling in the One? It's like a relationship
I haven't,
self.
no.
Okay,
But
well,
tell us
it's
about it, Sarah.
yeah, Calling in the One. I mean, highly recommend it. I truly believe that doing that work with this group of women is how I met my partner, and I'm in this relationship that's like nothing I've ever been in before. But anyways, we were all drawn to each other because we had the shared interest that brought us to this retreat, but we had never met before. And then we had this one thing in common, and we were all wanting to like do this work and like call in a partner and those kinds of things. And then we really connected and committed to a container together, and we created something. We're like best friends still to this day. But that's like what I was feeling with this Venus sextile is like starting to bring those groups, those masterminds together that are going to be the containers that hold us and are kind of holding hands with us in these beginning stages of that dream building with the Aries
Mhm.
energy.
Yes. Oh, I think that's so beautiful and so well put. And I love the image of these masterminds, especially as we talk about Venus in Gemini, right? And you're saying that, and I'm like, Well, we talked about starting a little book club too, didn't we? And
Right.
we
No,
haven't
that's
gotten
like
around to it yet.
that
So,
weekend. That weekend. Exactly. No, exactly. It's like these people that you're like, we were up to the same things. We like really connect. What if we just like made a book club? Like we just made this up and just started it.
yeah,
Yes.
let's do it. And you're so right, and this little sextile is so sweet and so supportive. Sextiles are the nature of Venus, right? And
Hmm.
so like that just feels really good too. And I don't think I can really add anything to what you've said because you've covered it so beautifully. But I'll just reiterate then that like Venus is here like using her words, using her wit to harmonize and invigorate and inspire the new horizon, the new dreams, like you're talking about, that we're working on with that Saturn and Neptune in Aries promise.
Yeah, and I was thinking when we were talking about before we started recording how much we wished Sunday was maybe a Saturday because later on Sunday night we're gonna have the moon go into Sagittarius and a natal moon in Sag. Like I know how much fun can be had with the moon in Sagittarius, but this is a little bit extra fun because now we've got the moon in Sagittarius in mutual reception to Jupiter in Cancer, where they're receiving each other. And Jupiter's this newly renewed, just had the Cazimi. We're in this Cancer lunar cycle. Like, I don't even know what, but I am excited about the Sagittarius moon. What are you thinking
Yes,
about this?
yes. Well, and not only is there that mutual reception, but I just love that we're playing on the Gemini Sagittarius polarity, right? This
Yes.
moon is opposite this Venus, who's then sextiling the business in Aries. And so there's this just like connectivity that is happening here. And I know, like, girlfriend loves a disco ball,
Yeah.
girlfriend loves a party.
Disco Queen. Whitney and I
I
love
know.
the same music, in case you didn't catch on. That was like one of our first friendship love moments where we
Yes,
recognized.
yes, one of the many ways we've built common ground, which
Yeah.
is just like so fun. But it's interesting too because if Venus with her sort of harmonizing wit, like there's something about that this day that's feeling like sort of mediation or like peace talks, right? There's something there, but like then there's the polarity of the moon going into Sagittarius that tells us, like, well, peace talks are not like we're just here to have a good time. Like, peace out, y'all. One of my good friends and astrologers, her name is Janessa. On Instagram, she's by Jovi Astro. And recently, for a moon in Sagittarius, she posted this meme that I was like, yes, this is so Sagittarius.
Oh
And it
God.
was basically like Sagittarius moon says, fuck around and find out.
I am not going to confirm or deny. Yeah.
I think we're getting that sort of loud, bold energy here. And, from a fashion perspective, listen, we've had a really busy weekend, right? We've been having all sorts of Venus, Uranus fun in the action, but like this moon in Sagittarius is like a good time for us to throw on the pieces we know that like go the distance, right? If this is a
Ooh.
Sunday and we wish it was a Saturday, it's a holiday weekend, right? It's like this is where we kind of like let loose a little bit and let's just like wear our Birkenstocks out, like
Right.
we don't.
Where the I love that go the distance. It's so good. And I think the image of traveling and I think of myself at Coachella and I tried really hard to do the thing of wearing the cute outfit the first day with the boots. And the boots are comfortable boots. Like I feel comfortable in those boots just walking around on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
But oh my God, I was like, hell no, I can't do this. So my Sag, needed to put on my Converse because I gotta dance. I gotta feel good. My feet have to feel good so I can move. So yeah, that like wear the comfortable shoes that can go the
Yes.
distance. I love
Yes.
that.
I mean, this is also very deeply inspired by Sarah Alharar's talk at
Yes.
NORWAC
Thank you
as
for
well, right?
saying her name. Thank
Oh,
you. I
oh my God.
thank you. We needed to do that. Definitely. She's amazing. Everybody needs to check her out. Like just
Yes,
one of the
seriously.
coolest humans I've ever been introduced to.
Astro Astro Auntie is what she goes by, which is so so cool. But she's also another former fashion industry person, and like when she spoke of Sagittarius, it was like very much bringing in those travel worn pieces. So
Yeah.
that was just so inspiring. You know what I see as the perfect outfit for Sunday of this holiday weekend is like your peace sign graphic tee, right? With like your utility pants or your utility shorts or whatever, and your Birkenstocks. We're like feeling it. We're fashionable, but we're comfy too.
Yeah, I love that. Something that was coming to me as we were talking about these transits too, that I just want to mention and see what you think. Because of that reception with Jupiter and the moon, it kind of brings us back to this like nostalgic kind of echo of some of the big things that were happening during the Gemini lunar cycle when we had those big squares from the planets entering Cancer, like Mercury, Jupiter, and the Sun. They went through these really hefty squares to Saturn and Neptune. And I know they were heavy for a lot of people. They brought a lot up. There was, yeah, a lot of like pause before continuing forward, a lot of really, sobering considerations that had to be made, and a lot of grief, that also showed up at those pivot points in those squares. And I almost feel like the moon entering into Sagittarius this night, receiving Jupiter in Cancer, kind of, calling back to that Cancer new moon. And it's like we're remembering all of that difficulty that we went through. And it's like today we realize we're not alone. And maybe some of these
Mm,
like new communities or masterminds, we're like, we feel that Sagittarian inspiration or that enthusiasm, the like feeling uplifted again and saying, okay, I can get through this. Like this is hard, but I have what it takes to endure because now I know that I also have other people with me. And so it feels like a wave, like picking us up. And
mm.
it's through these connections and collaborations that it's like a new hope might arrive too.
Put that on a coffee cup. I mean, that A New Hope, that was so beautifully said and very, very poignant. Yeah, that those were really tough squares that we were living through. And I know even before we started recording, Sarah and I acknowledged that, right? Like you feel that in the collective. And it didn't dawn on me until you started talking about this that like, oh, is this where that concept of peace talks or mediations that I brought up
Mm,
previously is coming in? Because we know there's a lot of crap happening on a large scale in the world right now. And so this is such a beautiful moment of healing and of coming together. And I'm so grateful that you pointed that out because isn't it interesting? Like, yes, these are fun transits. I mean, generally, right? The transits we've been talking about, they're fun. There's a reason it's Venus week, but there's also a depth here that it's not just a party, right? This is like how we bring people together.
right. The reality of what's happening, like where we are and what we're all going through. I love too that it feels really grounded in the sense of we're not just bypassing what's happening. It's actually through the recognition and the vulnerability of connecting with people and sharing what we've been through and what we're, even that mastermind group I started, it was very vulnerable to admit, like, yeah, I'm single, I'm having trouble, like figuring this relationship stuff out. But it was like through that, we cried a lot together, and we danced together. It does feel like maybe there's some medicine of relief and
Hmm.
fun that comes where we can all kind of like enjoy a drink together and say we're, like let's like take a night off. Let's maybe cry together. Let's also get excited to say like we can do this. It feels like the we can do this moment.
Yes. Oh, and Jupiter and Cancer, let's just cry together. I
Yes.
mean, that's perfect.
I've cried so much already. Thank you, Jupiter and Cancer.
No, I don't like it. I don't
Uh,
like it. Y'all, Cancer is my 12th house. This is not.
no, not your comfort zone.
She doesn't like it. This is not the year.
She
No,
won't
I
she won't
say
cry in
that,
front
but
of us, but no.
yeah,
Oh man.
exactly.
Yeah. Let's actually go ahead and let that take us into Monday. So Monday, July 7th, drum roll please. This is the day that Uranus officially enters Gemini for the first time. And this is going to be a transit that we're all going to live through over the next 7 years or so. But this is the first taste. This is the first step into a completely new territory for Uranus, the planet Uranus. And Uranus will station retrograde and dip back into Taurus. It's going to go back to 27 degrees. That's as far back in Taurus as it's going to get before completing that transit. But from now through November 7th, we're getting a little, what did we call it? Prologue
Yes, the
in the
prologue.
prologue of what Uranus and Gemini is going to do. So I would love to just let you speak to anything that comes up for you around Uranus and Gemini. What are the things that you're like, I really want people to know or to consider
Yeah.
or to wear?
Yeah. all of the above because it's Gemini.
Right.
Yeah, I think this image of a prologue is so perfect because we're also getting this, you know, in astrology when you see multiple signs repeating, that it's a very important.
It's obvious.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so not only is Uranus going into Gemini and will eventually retrograde, but we know because Neptune just went retrograde this week as well that this is also happening with Neptune and Saturn. And so all of these little planets are giving us this sort of prologue and it's working together. But like you said, it's momentous. Like this is a slow moving planet, right? And so Uranus moving signs, we're going to feel it. Like, and I think we're going to see it in the media too. This is a quick talking, quick acting, fast pace, right? Uranus is sort of the rebel or the revolutionary of the zodiac. So, from a sort of mundane or what we call like world astrology perspective, I would not be surprised if the next 7 years of Uranus into Gemini bring us some revolutions in technology and in the media, right? In the way that we're using information. We're already seeing it with AI. And I think that Pluto and Aquarius has a lot to do with that too. But Uranus is so fast talking, fast paced in this sign that I think that we're going to see those sorts of changes really accelerating at this time. And, this is prime trickster energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like Uranus is the archetype of the trickster. And I think that we could also say that Gemini, of all of the signs in the zodiac, is the trickster
Well,
sign.
before we knew Uranus, Mercury was the archetypal trickster in our traditional schema. So, and we're in Mercury's sign. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So, yes, continue on. I'm
No,
yes,
100%. Yes, we're
those layers we talked about. Remember, like it's obvious. Okay.
picking up the same thing. And so I've been, because it's important to continue our studies, I've been reading the book Cosmos and Psyche, which is one of our astrological tomes, one of our, what's come to be like a really foundational text, right? And so it was really interesting for me because I actually just read this chapter 2 nights ago when we're talking about the archetype of Uranus and how all of our traditional planets are named for the god or goddess that the archetype emits, right? Richard Tarnas, the author, posits that the mythological archetype of Prometheus is so much more aligned with Uranus. And that just blew my mind. Like, if we know anything about Prometheus, it's that Prometheus stole fire from the gods, like as an immortal himself, and brought it to humanity so that humanity could become like a functioning thing, right? We were nothing before the art of making fire and making tools. And it is Prometheus, this great rebel, that's the Uranus energy, right? That brought this newness. And so I'm just tying that in kind of on like a maybe tangent whim of like, this is like such a Promethean moment, and there is bound to be so much inspiration in this Gemini area of our chart. And it's like where we need to expand and sort of break the boundaries of what has been established. So we've been talking all about the social nature, right? With Venus here. Like, is it not perfect that Venus is sort of guiding this transition? I mean, not only just to like make it feel nice, but also for the cooperative and maybe productive aspect then that Uranus is not just like tearing down our, like the internet is going to go out for days or something.
That could happen. Yeah.
It could.
There's so much there. I'm going to do my best to not go too far down rabbit holes with you so we can stay a little bit on track. But honestly, I'm kind of feeling like it'd be fun to do an entire Uranus and Gemini episode together. So maybe just like dropping that seed of potential. Yeah, I think that the overstimulation component of Uranus and Gemini, I mean, this is a very ruled by Mercury. It's a mental overstimulation. Uranus is bringing these themes of rebellion and disruption and innovation and this new, energy that hasn't been here before, that innovative quality. And it's very mental. So, like you were talking about, like there's a new way we need to think. We need to expand our way of seeing or thinking about things in the Gemini part of our chart so that Uranus is going to come here. And with Venus, it feels like there's a little bit of soothing to help maybe regulate the introduction of this new kind of processing system that's coming through and the way that information is going to just, I think, be completely disrupting our societal norms. And I feel like Venus here is kind of like not just for the fun of tricking people and that trickster energy, but
Mm-hmm.
like, how are we going to use this to actually weave things together? How is it going to be impactful for creating change that's actually socially constructive and bringing greater harmony to things and to each other versus just disrupting to disrupt, right? Which I think, so there's maybe like a softer tone, a greater ability to maybe listen as much as we're excited to speak
Mm-hmm.
with this new Uranus energy that Venus is kind of hopefully helping. When I was thinking about Uranus entering into Gemini on its own, I was just like, oh my God, like this is, thinking about our brains and like, the neuro pathways and the nervous system. And I was thinking about it kind of like, road systems in life and how Uranus coming in, there's always this phase of Uranus transits that's very disruptive because it's causing a renovation in an area or in a planet. It wants us to do something different and create something different. It's like, I'm out with the old. And that first stage of renovation, if you've ever renovated like a physical space, it usually gets really messy first. You have to like kind of
Mm-hmm.
tear everything down. Or when there's a new bypass or an overpass in like a highway system that could be put in a big community, a big city. Initially, there's a lot of more traffic, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
actually a slowing down of our flow between that space or between those roads and that city because we have to wait for the construction to actually complete, before we can start leveraging or using this new system. And so I was thinking about this like in our own minds, the way that we process information and the way that we think about things. And I feel like there's a potential for there to be a really cool collective advancement as like a human species and our consciousness evolution, especially with those trines to Pluto and Aquarius. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
kind of out there with all of this, but I feel like the caution I want to bring for myself and others is that caution of potential overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
To really notice, it can be really exciting. Like so many new ideas are coming in. We're like, new ideas are coming in out of nowhere. And how are we going to process them without burning out our nervous system, without just getting overstimulated and causing these traffic jams within ourselves? So it's like, will there be a traffic jam and a short circuit mentally where we're kind of feeling like, you lose the internet and you're like, everything goes out. You're like, oh. And from those quote unquote blackout moments, it's like in that rest phase, we kind of have to reintegrate and re regulate so we can, okay, I have to process this information differently. I have to process this energy differently. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of out
It
there,
makes
but
so much. No, we are out there together. I am a double Aquarius, so we'll just like
oh
hang
yeah,
out
okay.
way out there.
Join us, everybody, out
Yeah.
here.
I mean, everyone is called to join us out here with these outer planetary shifts for sure. That makes so much sense, Sarah. And what I love is, well, something I love about you and the way that you think and the way that you practice. You are so sensitive to the energy and working with the nervous system. And that is, I plainly did not think about how, yes, this is going to absolutely affect our nervous systems for
Mm.
sure. We're going to feel on overload. And I love that you pointed to Venus as a way to kind of help calm and soothe that, because I think with a lot of nervous energy out there with an ingress like this, I mean, some people may just end up feeling hyper energetic, and that's
Mm-hmm.
great. But those of us who struggle with a little bit of anxiety may feel it uncomfortably as well. I mean, certainly at points throughout these next 7 years, we all are
Yeah.
going to
Right,
anyway.
right, right.
So I just love your reminders to sort of ground back down into what soothes us. What came to mind as we're talking about things getting worse before they get better in terms of mess and construction and renovation, right? Isn't there some time where you just have, what is the saying? Like, bless the mess? Like, I know that
Yes.
people talk about this,
Oh.
right? Because sometimes, hi Virgo moon. I mean, I feel like I could have a whole like support group for my like cleaning nature, right? But we can get so caught up in all of this outer stimulation, right? And really, at some point, we just need to say, you know what? This is okay.
Mm.
It's a little messy. Life's a little messy. And that's okay because I can choose not to be messy inside, even if I'm surrounded by mess.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah. I I think in maybe this we can use Venus here, co-present, to kind of lean in and ask and pay attention. What are some new regulation techniques that maybe we can start to experiment with, like using that Uranus energy, knowing that there is going to be an overstimulation potential, that anxiety is 1000% a potential of that energy. And even if you're not a naturally anxious person, it can be very disruptive to our sleep patterns too, you know?
Mm.
And so, like, learning also, Gemini, we live in a human body that is only capable of so much, right? And if we overdo it, if we overstimulate, the body will show it. And so I think there's going to be this like relationship building between our nervous system and our body and the excitement for these new ideas and new potentials and really coming into right relationship with that in the beginning of this transit, I think is important. And then the other thing I was thinking was like when you download a new software on your computer and how initially it can take a lot longer or everything kind of slows down on the computer because you have this new software that's running. And so you kind of have to go through and like delete old saved downloads. You have to clear your caches. And so I also think that can be something we can think about too is like what caches can we clear in regards
Yes.
to like information that we're storing. Also, I'm going to be really mindful about boundaries when it comes to information intake, especially on like social media and
Mm.
sources, because I just don't want to have too many tabs open. The information is going to be flowing. It's going to be flowing from new directions. It's going to be flowing at hyperspeed, like you said. And so I get to define those channels that I want to open and which ones I don't need to open. They're not helpful for me personally. So having a little bit of that like discernment, I think could be a little bit helpful for maybe working with that or setting ourselves up.
Absolutely helpful. And like, I think this is a good reminder too, especially because on this same day that Uranus moves into Gemini, Venus in Gemini, who is very closely configured with Uranus, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're what we
They're
would
right
call
there.
conjunct. It may not be perfect, but
They're
it's
walking on the
close.
same block.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on this same day, Venus in Gemini is trining Pluto in Aquarius. This is like a really important time. I love how you talked about maybe trying to filter in a way, not only what we're putting out there
Mm.
to make sure it is not necessarily like
Intentional?
accurate and factual, but yes, intentional. That's what
Yeah.
the word I was searching for. And so I think that this trine that's forming with Pluto is also teaching us the power of that information,
Mm.
And so there's an important reminder here. Yes, a trine is overall very helpful, but there's like a little bit of a warning with this as well, because Pluto does not always act in a benefic manner. We'll just say it that way. And so there's something here that's teaching us the power of communication, the power of information, and how we use it to both heal wounds, to make things better, but that same information can also exacerbate those wounds, right? The way
Mm.
we communicate, if we don't do it with care, if we don't take Venus into account here, then our words can hurt.
I love that. I also think taking Pluto into account. I was thinking about like there's like a messaging that's available to kind of empower social change on a collective level. I was imagining like a
Oh,
new phrase, kind of like no kings, the protest that just
yes.
happened recently. It's a very simple short phrase, but if we put that out there and then everybody's wearing a t-shirt that says no kings, it's like Venus Pluto is literally wearing a movement of social change and collective change. And I think we also have to think about Pluto in the sense of when we think about the messaging, when we think about the changes and what we're wearing, what we're advocating and participating with, making sure that we really stay connected and tethered to how that's impacting the collective on a whole. Like, how does that messaging actually root into our shared healing and evolution and change? And then that's where there is that potential where if we get stuck in the Gemini duality of like me versus you, we're one's this, one's that, we're different, we're not the same. It's like but actually we are. We are two sides of the same coin. And I would hope and I pray, honestly, that there's at least a large cohort of us that are able to leverage that in a way that can raise that voice and messaging that kind of shows this mirror between the two sides, that we actually all do want the same thing and we're not that different. And we might disagree and have different opinions or voted for somebody different. Like, who the hell cares? At the end of the day, what is it that we do have in common? And what is it that we're here to really hold each other through, together?
Preach, girlfriend. I love it. And like, because there's so much power there, right? With Pluto in the mix here, it's raw power. And we can use that for the collective good, just as you said. We can use that power to unite. And at the same time, we know there are people out there who misuse their power, right? And this can be one of those moments of sort of like power play, But this is where we choose the greater good, where we choose peace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love that. And I think with the fashion piece too, it's like I was just seeing it as we suddenly start seeing people in graphic tees that are literally those like social affirmations for collective change. Like I could see that being
Yes.
something that starts to trend with Uranus and Gemini over the month of July. I mean, we know there's obviously a lot collectively raising in these conversations and debates. And I could see there being like people are literally wearing a certain thing, but instead of like the MAGA hats, it'll be like another trend, for
Yeah.
another voice, another, opinion. So yeah,
What
it's like, what are you wearing?
whatever it is, it's going to be loud, because I think, again, and this portion of the moon cycle is just loud, right? But this particular day is calling for maximalism. You know what I mean? It's like we're mixing stripes with leopard print today. We're
Yes.
still pulling out the bold colors. You've got like a coat of many colors and patterns happening. And maybe it's a little quirky, right? Because Pluto and Aquarius is in the mix. But I think you're right on with using our outfit, using our apparel to speak for us in a way, right? But then isn't that beautiful, just as we've mentioned earlier, of how that creates common ground? We can use it to our advantage.
Or in that conversation starter too, and I think that's the thing I'm really going to be mindful and intentional about is like asking more questions, like really using July to create these platforms or these foundations of common ground between anybody and everybody. I'm really excited for that invitation to get curious and to really lean in and hear from people like, why do you come from the place you come from in this opinion, and not in a way to debate you. I genuinely want a new insight, a new perception. I
Yes.
want to leverage that Uranus and Gemini to open my mind too, and to just sit with that contemplation without fixing my sense of right or wrong on anything, right? That's more Sag that we say right or
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is pure curiosity,
Yeah. So Monday, we'll see. I mean, what a grand entrance for Uranus into Gemini with Venus making that trine to Pluto. Hopefully, we're introducing this new major outer planet into this new territory. And the person introducing is Venus trine Pluto, hopefully vocalizing for the collective. It's like that introduction speech before the main speech that really sets up the stage and brings everybody together. It's like everybody gets quiet and they're just listening and they're
Like
all
the
tuned in.
MC.
Yes, the
Yeah.
MC. Oh my God,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. The
Thank you. I
master
couldn't
of
think of the word.
ceremony.
This is yes, this is like that master of ceremony moment. And like thank God Venus is there. It's like this is I think it's gonna
She
be a
is
really
the MC.
good. This is gonna be like a really good MC moment. So I'm excited if there's like something televised that actually happens. We'll have to stay tuned and like see.
Yeah.
But it could go down as a speech that we all, remember in history, potentially.
Something to remember, certainly. Because like we started this section with, like, we're gonna see it. We're gonna see
Feel
this
it and see it.
ingress.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that kind of takes us into the end of Monday night when the moon in Sagittarius is going to be void of course once again for an extended amount of time, all the way until Wednesday, July 9th, when the moon will enter into Capricorn, starting to build towards the Capricorn full moon. And I just thought it was really fascinating that we bookend this week, this first quarter lunar phase with these extended void of course moons. It feels like there's these real invitations for integration and preparation before the like big exciting things happen with everything we covered. So I think this is your moment to kind of rest and digest, talk about the regulation techniques and things. I think there's a lot that we're going to have to assimilate and consider after so much potentially getting stirred up and changed and rearranged.
I think we're gonna need it. Remember back in the day, I don't know, was it on MTV or VH1, but they do like the unplugged sets. Like
Yeah.
this is a good like unplugged
So
set.
good. That's so good. That's
So
so
we're
good.
just gonna be here with our acoustic guitar. I think the Birkenstocks are coming back out,
Mhm.
and we're just gonna chill for a day because we're gonna need it before the Capricorn full moon.
Yeah. Put your phone in that airplane mode because you've probably had enough conversations at this point. I just thought that was such a fun, astrological nuance that there was that book ending. And then that takes us right into the full moon. And I'm so excited to get into that episode and that full moon. I think there's a lot to talk about there. But before we go, Whitney, thank you so much. I am so grateful that you said yes and that you came. This was honestly so much more fun with you. Like, don't get me wrong, love doing the podcast, but I just love that we got to do it together. Tell my audience, tell everybody, where can we find you? What are you up to? I know you just recently launched your YouTube podcast with the Cancer New Moon. Yeah. So yeah, how can people find you? Where can they find you? And what are some things that you're up to right now?
Okay, well, before we get into all that, just that all of that gratitude right back at you. I'm so thankful that you chose me to contribute on this, like, probably most fun week that we have in the coming weeks of astrology. So I'm just so grateful to be here with you. And it's just so fun to kind of like jam out with your astrology friends, you know?
I'm loving the
So
music references. Yes.
always,
Yes.
it's our thing.
Our love language.
You can find me on Instagram. That is my primary channel. Astro.arcana.astrology is where you'll find me there. And as Sarah mentioned, I just launched a brand new baby podcast, and I love her dearly. She is called the House of Good Spirit podcast. The podcast covers specifically the new moons and the full moons, and we speak to not only the feeling of the moment, but also sort of how we can use and reflect and integrate that astrology as well. It's why Sarah and I are such good podcast partners here because we have a similar point of view in that way. You can visit my website. It's astroarcana.com, where we can schedule a one-on-one birth chart or transit reading. I would love to help you sort of cut the clutter and the noise and talk about what the planetary transits mean for you specifically in your personal growth.
Mm.
So go find me on YouTube. My channel is the same handle as my Instagram, astro.arcana.astrology. And I can't wait to connect with y'all.
Yeah, and everything will be linked below. So everybody can find everything below. Well, Whitney, thank you so much. Again, if anybody has any questions for either of us, you can email us and you can find everything linked below for how to get in contact with Whitney. I can't recommend her enough. I love that you started doing these weekly Instagram astrology writings too. I mean, I'm a little bit biased because I share with Whitney this love for reflections and prompts and how we can really think about it and apply it for ourselves. And Whitney does a beautiful job of that. Her voice is very unique and also wise. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week for that Capricorn full moon. And I will actually cheers my happy hour drink now that it's actually time. And I'm
It is
trying this
time.
new IPA called Optimized Synergy, which it was just too perfect. So
So perfect for this little portion of the moon phase.
yeah. All right.
Oh,
Happy
hear that
hour.
crack.
Yes.
Here.
Cheers,
Oh,
Whitney.
cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you. Have an amazing rest of your week.